Hey everybody, I'm back with the games I beat over May 2019, and I beat quite a few. It was a good month, so we'll start off with this. I forgot to actually put in my last video for a game I beat in April, and I beat this at the end of April, and that's Batman for NES. Very fun, short game. Very difficult near the end. It has a great mechanic where you wall back climb, and depending on how light you tap the A button, you'll jump lighter, and you can time your jumps to hit the wall and jump again off the wall. It's very addictive. The music's great. It looks great, even though Batman's purple. It's about 5 or 6 stages, but they're not too long, but they're very challenging. Once you get the hang of it, though, it's very addicting. Very, very great game. There was two bosses I had to brute force. One was the Joker near the end. I had to just get in his face and use batarangs or punch him. And the other was Firefly. I think his name was Firefly in the manual. He kind of shot this big arc out, and I had to kind of brute force him. But very fun game, Batman for NES. And the first game I beat in May of this year was Metal Storm on the NES. This is a great game too. It looks great. The explosion in particular, when you get hit, it looks almost like there's this big cloud of explosion. It looks really great. The main trick with this game is you control gravity by hitting up and B or A, and you'll flip to the top of the screen or the bottom to avoid obstacles. You can shoot up, right, left, and jump and shoot down. You get power-ups. One makes your beam like a wave. The stronger one is a shield and lets you take an extra hit. And the other is, I forget what the other one is. There's another power-up or two. But you can only carry one at a time. This is a short game too, but it's very challenging. The music's great. The sound effects are great. It's just a unique game. You don't see a lot of there are other games with, I should say, there are other games with mechanics where you flip gravity. I think Wendy Every Which Way on the Game Boy Advance is like that, but I can't really think of another game that does that. I do have the Nintendo Power that this came in. I remember it as a kid seeing the mech on the front, like a clay mech, but I don't ever remember wanting this game as a kid or ever seeing it. I think it's a late release because I think I was onto the Super Nintendo at the time. But yeah, Metal Storm, great game. Next is a game I rented at my local video store, Video Visions, a lot, but I never really knew how to play it. And this is an early Super Nintendo release. This is Legend of the Mystical Ninja. This was one of the only 16-bit Mystical Ninja Goemon games. It's Goemon in Japan that we got over here. How do I explain this game? It looks great, it sounds great, it plays great. Basically, it's a side-scrolling platformer in some parts, but in the overworld, it's like you see a top-down tilted kind of angle where you can move up, down, left, right, like Zelda. You play as Kid Ying or Dr. Yang. Player 1's Kid Ying, player 2's Dr. Yang. So I played as Kid Ying because I played one player. You have this pipe, and then when you beat enough enemies, or actually townspeople, you get these cats, lucky cats, to extend your weapon up to 3 times, I think. And the last time is like this big yo-yo. You beat enemies to get coins to buy items like sushi, to heal your life, to buy extra extra items. I forget exactly what. Like armor that you can get, like hats that protect you from getting hit on the head, shoes to make you run faster, armor that makes you take less damage. So all those coins are very invaluable. So you have to go through the map, getting money, finding the right way, talking to the right people to go to the main dungeon area. And once you're in there, there's a side-scrolling view. And a cool animation on this game, if you crouch down and hit right or left, you like slug around on the ground. It's very cool. Got very challenging near the end. It's an awesome game, Legend of the Mystical Ninja. It's on Virtual Console service, I think, for Wii U and 3DS. And probably Wii as well. But Wii's shop is down, so you have to get it on Wii U, I believe. Another great game I played is Mega Man X2. I beat Mega Man X last month, and I really enjoyed that. That was my first time actually playing Mega Man X more than the intro stage. Mega Man X2 is a lot of the same, except they add a air dash mechanic where you jump in air and you can dash. Um, it makes movement really good, a little bit better than the first game. Basically, the story of this game is, if you remember in the first game, Zero was destroyed at the end. In this game, Sigma has these X-Hunter robots, Vile, Agile, and I forget the third one. But they're tasked with getting the parts of Zero to reconstruct them to use for evil purposes. So when you'll see their cursor on a stage that you select out of the eight or so stages of the boss masters, and you have to find the hidden entrance to their lair boss room where you can fight them, and if you win you get a piece of Zero. And if you find all the pieces when you get to the last fight with Sigma, he'll call he'll think he built a real Sigma or a real Zero, but it's not really powerful because you got all the right pieces. Zero will show up and destroy the doppelganger, and you don't have to fight Zero. I really like this game. There's parts of it I like more than the first Mega Man X, but I think the first Mega Man X I still like better because it was my first time playing a Mega Man X game. The music is great in this game. Everything's great in this game, but there's just something about the first one I like a little bit better. But this is a great game too, and I still need to play Mega Man X3. So yeah, Mega Man X2, great game. The next game I beat, I was in a kind of a beat 'em up ninja mood for these next two games or so. So, Ninja Warriors on the Super Nintendo. This game is great if you want to beat 'em up. A lot of beat 'em ups on the Super Nintendo, you move up, down, left, right in a full map. Like Final Fight, you can move up, down, left, or right. This one you move just X, left or right on the screen. You can pick 3 robot ninjas. One is Kabuki, I think. She's like a female, kind of fastest one. The other is Ninja. He's this big hulking ninja that can't jump. He can like shoot up in the air a little bit. And the other is, I forget his name, but he's this like skeleton-looking ninja that I actually went through the game with. So I went through the game twice. Once with the female ninja and once with that skeleton ninja. They each have like hidden moves. If you hit certain button combinations, you can use special moves that help you out immensely. Since it's only left or right, there's certain tactics you got to do that throw an enemy into somebody behind you so you don't get pinched. But once you figure out how to play this game, it's extremely addictive. It's not as simple as going left to right and beating enemies. You have to really put in thought of how to clear out enemies coming behind you and in front of you. It's not a long game, not a particularly too grueling of a game to get through. It'll put up a challenge, but it's a great game. The last bosses, you have to kind of throw or hit the ninjas you're fighting into this boss in this machine to crack his windshield. It's a great game, and the soundtrack's amazing. The graphics are amazing. It has this like 80s kind of synth soundtrack to it, which I love. That's Ninja Warriors, and I don't know if this is on a Virtual Console service. I think it might be on the Wii U. I'm not sure though. Another Ninja game. This one is Ninja Gaiden or Gaiden Black. Ninja Gaiden for the Xbox, Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox is a game that I have very strong memories of. I have the original version, which I beat back in 2004 or 5 with my friend, and we went through it. We really loved it. And this is like the updated re-release of it. The original Ninja Gaiden for Xbox had what's for Xbox Live called a Hurricane Pack, and I had it. I got Xbox Live just for this, and it enabled you to download extra weapons. You had the staff, and extra challenges and stuff. And you could be ranked on a leaderboard. So I had Xbox Live really early, and I got it for that, and then I stopped. It includes all that content on here, and they made a little bit of tweaks with the essence that you collect. I forget what it is. They added some more different enemies in the Tyron area. I think there's these like mutants that kind of pop up. But this game's fantastic if you haven't played this or Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox. It's challenging, but not stick with it. And like I'm not the best at games, but I'm very persistent. And if you're persistent, you can get through this. And you will want to get through it because it's extremely addictive. The first one in particular has a exploration connected world, almost like Metroid. You don't get abilities to like open doors and stuff, but you have all the abilities you need to get through from stage to stage. But it has an almost exploration kind of feel to it. There's a ton of weapons. I basically stick with the ninja sword, and I pull out the staff or the big diabolique thing to kill demons with. There's cutscenes. It's extremely good looking. Even it runs great at 60 frames per second. It looks great, and it is on the PlayStation 3 as Sigma, which is a remake, or you can get it on the Xbox if you have an Xbox One X or One. I think it'll upscale it, and you can, if you have the game, you can play it on your One X backwards compatible. I think it'll download it, but one of my favorite games ever. Every few years I get a craving to go back through it. I think I haven't done. I shouldn't say every few years, but just got a craving of going back to it again. I think I beat it 1, 2, 3, 4 times counting this. Just a great game. It sounds great. The soundtrack gets me pumped up. You feel like a ninja playing this game. It's just a great compliment to the NES games. Once you play through this game, it's just a masterpiece of a game. Next up we have for the Super Nintendo Blackthorn. This is by Blizzard. I was going to play this or Lost Vikings because I wanted to play a Blizzard game last month, so I picked Blackthorn. This is a great game too. It's a very slow-paced, methodical game. Has kind of that movement like Prince of Persia where it's a pause when you turn from right to left. You kind of see an animation where your character turns, so you have that delay. Or when you're running, when you want to jump, you got to time your jump before you hit the edge or you'll fall off because there's a time, that animation time where he has to go through an animation to jump. So it's deliberate in that regard. It's very, it wants you to play very slowly because there's enemies that are in front of you and they'll shoot when they see you, so you have to duck against the wall, wait for them to fire, time your attack to pop out from behind the wall cover and shoot them. So it's very slow and methodical. But basically the gist of the game is you go through this stage. I think there's about 4 or 5 stages of 3 levels each, so it's not too long, but it's very challenging near the end. And you have to find keys, and find villagers to give you items, to access keys, to make bridges, to get to the elevator to the next section. The last boss is very challenging because you have to use all your movement against the wall and ducking out and shooting, rolling to get by him. It took me quite a bit of time, but when you die, you start right at him again. It has passwords, so you can start after every 3 levels or so. When you get to a new stage or a level of this level, or when you beat 3 stages, you get to a new level, ride an elevator up, and you can get a password. It's very short, like 5 characters. So it's very fair. You can get through it, but very fun game. Once you get started, you'll want to keep playing it until you beat it. And this was on a lot of systems. It's on 32X, Genesis as well. Next, for the NES, next game I beat in May was G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. I don't have much experience with this game prior to this playthrough of it this last month. I remember my friend at his house, I played it once or twice. I remember it being harder than when I played it. I think this because I just sat down and played it. You know how you play a game and you don't really learn the mechanics and everything, and it's hard until you learn the mechanics. It gets a little easier, and you learn how the game wants you to play. That's what I could say about G.I. Joe. I was never a big G.I. Joe person growing up, kid growing up. I didn't have any of the toys. My friend, we went to his house and we used to play with G.I. Joe. He had a lot. Um, and that's why I think he had this game or he rented it or borrowed it from somebody. But I really enjoyed it. Basically, there's, I think, one, two, three. There's Snake. You play as either Duke, an all-around average Snake Eyes who's very fast, can jump high, um, Gridiron, um, Blizzard, and I'm forgetting the other two. And then, so basically, you play through that. You pick one stage is leaded by somebody. So the first stage is Duke, and you pick two other Joes to fill his team. And the first stage is a kind of run and gun, left to right Contra style stage where you collect gun icons and you level up from 1A to 1D, I think, and then you'll go to 2A, 2D, 3A, and then your max. And when you do that, by collecting the gun icons, your weapon gets like better and stronger. So you want to kind of go into the stage and plan out who you want to give the best gun icons to upgrade your guns, because Gridiron in particular, his weapon power, his stats are his weapon's very powerful. He can take out bosses really easily. So each character has better stats. Some can jump higher. Some weapons are more powerful. Some fists are more powerful. You get select. You can go from weapon to fist. You do have ammo, so you want to use your fist a lot to conserve ammo. The second stage is like you infiltrate the Cobra base, and you have to find from 3 to 8 or 9 hidden bomb locations with an X. The first one is kind of easy. It's got short, not as big as the stage. You find the areas, jump onto them, plant the bomb. When you plant all 3, you have to get out in time. And the next stage is escaping from that, and then you fight a boss. And then you move on to the next area, and you pick a new team leader, and then you pick 2 more Joes, and go on from there. You get a password at the end of your stage. If you die, you do lose a level up of your character. So any level ups you got, you lose that are in your team. You lose their level ups. It's not a long game. I think there's 6 or 7 stages of 3 levels. It's very fun, very addicting, and you do get better at it like any game. I went through it once. It took me a while, and then it loops and it plays again. But the second time, instead of taking 2 other Joes with you, you only take 1. So instead of a group of 3, you have a leader and another person, so a group of 2. And I flew through it the second time. I think that was because the second time was easier for me, because when you only have another person in your team, you can spread out the upgrades better and they level up quicker. And then it loops again, and that time they hide the bombs in the second part of the level that you have to find to blow up the Cobra base in ridiculous areas. And I think that I just stopped and went on to another game. But G.I. Joe is a very fun game, and it's developed by Kid, who will actually, I'll talk about another game that I beat this month by them. And that's actually this next game developed by Kid, and that's for the NES. This is Kickmaster. A very late NES game. This was released in like 1991, so the Super Nintendo was out at the time, and I think it's actually in this issue of Nintendo Power. I actually pulled this out while I was playing to read about how to play it and stuff. So here's a little article about it. So this issue here, this is right when the Super Nintendo was coming out. This is volume 28 of Nintendo Power. It has Kickmaster in it. Has your list of moves and stuff here. But I remember this issue of Nintendo Power as a kid, but I don't remember Kickmaster in it. I think I was so excited for the Super Nintendo, I think NES games kind of flew by my radar, but this one should not. It's a very fun playing game. The story is nothing great. I think there's this evil wizard that comes in, and you and your brother go out to defeat him. Your brother dies, and he says something to the effect of, only your kicks can destroy him. So you use nothing but kicks. You collect when you beat enemies with your kicks. They explode, and then you either get experience. You have to jump up and catch either experience, health, or a weapon upgrade. And sometimes there's a little skull that'll hurt you. And when you upgrade your levels, there's like an experience bar. When you upgrade to level 2 and so on, you get more moves, and you have to figure them out. Like on their different by control pad presses, like down and B will do like a knee drop. You can do like hit right and B, you'll do like a spin kick. So there's different moves you gotta learn, and the key to success is learning how to use those moves. There's magic hidden throughout the stages that you find in chests that help you immensely, like lightning that'll drop down, and like projectiles, and you can stop time, which is very makes the final boss a lot easier. Um, it's not too long. It's great looking. The sound's good. It's very flickery. One of the more common flicker-prone NES games like Commando is very flickery. But this was developed by Kid and published by Taito. Um, it's a very fun game, and the box art is very great. If you get a chance to play Kickmaster, give it a shot. It's very fun. The next is Devil's Third, and I've been playing this off and on. I got stuck at a point, and I finally got past that point and beat it this month. This is a great game, very fun. It's very over the top. The story doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The main character's a clown. He's like this guy that they bust out of Guantanamo Bay. He's bald. He has tattoos all over him. He's Russian, and you're picked by the CIA to infiltrate and take down this terrorist organization that he was once a member of. It's about 8 stages of so many levels each. It includes it's made by Valhalla Studios, which I don't think are any longer around, but Ninja Gaiden, the producer of Ninja Gaiden, I forget his name, but he did this game. It had some troubled development. It finally came out, Nintendo published it, and when it came out, it was just like a joke. Everybody thought it was terrible, but if you go into it with an open mind and play it and not look for amazing graphics or stunning gameplay that breaks new grounds, you'll find an enjoyable game. Almost like this game was out of the PS2 generation, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I'm finding now playing PS2 games that they're just great. So this game would fit right into that. And, there are the AI is not the smartest, like they'll run in circles and they'll see you and they'll look right at you, it'll be like in front of you and they won't see you. But it's just very fun to play because you have like a mix between first-person shooting. You can pull up sights and shoot with weapons, and like Ninja Gaiden combat, not as deep as Ninja Gaiden, but you get like different melee weapons, swords, and stuff. And when you fill up your this gauge, you click down your left stick, and you'll go into this almost a mode where you're super strong and you'll just dice through enemies. But it's a very fun game. The story's over the top. It's worth a playthrough if you like action games from the PS2 era or something like that. Next up, I wanted to play a Metroid-style exploration game, or Metroidvania. I don't really like to use that term, but I'll use it to I'll say Metroid-type exploration game. That's Shadow Complex. I've heard a lot about this game, and I finally started playing it. I stopped, and then I picked it back up, and I couldn't put it down until I beat it in another 2 sessions. I put 2 10-hour sessions again, and I beat it. It's very similar to Metroid, but it's a modern military kind of shooting game. So in Metroid, you have missile doors. You open with missiles or your arm cannon. In this, you use your gun to open doors, or your foam gun, or missiles will do that. And the story is you're with your girlfriend and you're going caving or spelunking, and you fall across this organization that has that's planning something, and you don't know what. She gets kidnapped. You have to try to save her, and then you have to escape. And you find out later on that they're trying this whole coup to blow up Washington with these nuclear weapons or something. I don't quite know, but um, it's very fun. And if you played a Metroid exploration game, you know that it's very addicting when you find items to get stronger. And oh, I can go back to this area and go here and explore. Um, that's what's very good about this game. It has a sense of upgrading that is very addictive in these types of games. And the combat is kind of janky because it's side-scrolling, but there's enemies in the background that you have to shoot at, so you can't really aim backwards. There's an auto target that snaps at them, so that can be kind of frustrating when you want to shoot at somebody in the foreground or in the background and it won't kind of snap. And I think you can hit up and it kind of pushes it there, but you get a cool moves in this game. You can wall jump, you can do a double jump and then a triple jump. It's just fun to move around, and there's this whole underground like complex that you go into, like a shadow complex, and you go outside into a cave a little bit. There's an underwater area. It's just a great game, and I think it's still available for cheap. So yeah, Shadow Complex, very fun. On Castlevania, I've been wanting to play, craving a Castlevania game, so I've been wanted to play one I haven't played on a PlayStation, and that's Castlevania Chronicles. And wow, this game is amazing. It's a remake of a Sharp X68000 PC game that came out, I think, in '93. But it's something like a retelling of the first Castlevania. The stages are a little different, but you do fight a big bad at the beginning. There's some different stages. The character's really big. You're kind of slower moving. You can do a jump and diagonal downward slash or a diagonal slash with your whip. It's just classic Castlevania, and this is a very gem of a game. It's up there with one of my favorite Castlevania games now after playing it. I mean, I think as 2D side-scrolling classic Castlevania goes, I think this is like right behind 3 for me, and it's not as I'm gonna say Rondo of Blood is on a whole different level because there's so many different paths and stuff. This is not really in that kind of vein. This is more of the Castlevania 1, 3, and Super kind of games. And I really like this game. It's up there with like Super Castlevania, Castlevania 3, Castlevania 1 for me. The Castlevania 3 is much more accessible, or Castlevania 4 is much more accessible for the Super Nintendo, and I think that's why I like that one more, because it's just more, when I'm playing that game, you can be very loose with your playing without having to worry, because it's generally easier with this. It doesn't really ramp up until the end, or with how you play, because you can whip in all directions. It's more accessible, but this game's much more challenging. Very on par with, I think 3 is harder, but this one is very hard, but it's very rewarding. And there's a original mode, and Simon has like his blonde hair, and there's a remix mode with remixed music, with like he was redesigned for the 2000 release. This was a late PlayStation release, and it has like an arranged mode, like Castlevania Chronicles on a PSP had an arranged mode of Rondo of Blood. This has an arranged mode of this one, and Itagaki, who's coming out with Bloodstained this month, which I'm really looking forward to. Actually, this was his first. I think after Symphony, I think he did this game. And there's a little interview with him where he looks a lot younger and he talks about wanting to do other games. I think he was pointing at or hinting at wanting to do Castlevania 3, which would have been awesome. But this game's amazing if you get a chance to play it. I think it is on the PlayStation 3 or 4 store. Play it. I highly recommend it if you like Castlevania 1 or 3 or Super Castlevania. Play this game. Play it. Next up, we have Castlevania Lament of Innocence. I've got this when it first came out, and then I played it, but I never got into it. But this time I sat down, played it, and finally beat it. And it's very slow. The music's excellent, but it's very slow and not great. The level design isn't great. They're just rooms that are square, and you can jump up to like different areas. But The battle's fun, the music's great. So basically, what happens? This is the first Castlevania of them all. It tells the story of how the vampire killer came to be. Basically, you're Leon Belmont, the first Belmont, and your friend Matthias Qualmquist went missing, and your girlfriend was kidnapped by Walter somebody, and he's a vampire that lives in this castle. So you go outside the castle and you meet Ronaldo, who tells you, hey, I help these travelers who go into this vampire's house. Here's the weapon. He gives you the whip, and he'll sell you potions. You go up to the castle, and then you're hit with this great music. And then you go into the castle's little tutorial area, and you find these like 6 like seals on the ground, and you go into the first house of sacred remains, and that's the first level. And then when you beat that, you come out, and then you beat the other ones. So the castle's like a hub, and the little seals are different worlds that you go to. You find out later that if you don't want to know about how the vampire killer came to be, you find out, I'll give you a warning right now, I'm going to explain that, but you find out that the vampire killer is not strong enough to defeat Walter the Dracula. So you have to get it powered up, but you find out the only way to get it powered up is to have the blood of somebody, a loved one, die and be absorbed into it. So you rescue your girlfriend, or actually you meet the main vampire, Walter, and I think you beat him, or you meet him, and he says, "I'll give you a gift. Here's your girlfriend back." But he turned her into a vampire. You know she's going to turn, so she willingly sacrifices herself so her soul can infuse into the whip that'll make it strong enough to kill vampires and the undead. And that's how the vampire whip comes to be. It's your dead wife, who is a vampire, is imbued into the whip that makes it deadly against vampires and the undead. So then you have the strength to beat Walter. You go in there, the castle, fight Walter, but you find out that Walter was just a vessel to be killed by you and turn into, or killed by you because the real mastermind was Matthias, your friend. And once you kill him, and he's like a sacrifice, he turns into Dracula, and then you beat him, and you fight. I think you fight Death. I'm not sure. I'm getting this and Curse of Darkness mixed up, which I played. I'll talk about that next month. But you beat him, and then he says, He says that I'll come back every so many years, 100 years or so, and that's how you're pledged to fight Dracula off. So every time he reappears, and you're the first Belmont. So the Castlevania Netflix series actually explains a little bit about. It has a cameo by Leon Belmont, and then after this, you go into Curse of Darkness, which I'll talk about next month because I actually want to talk about that because I really like Curse of Darkness. This one is good. It's not as good as Curse of Darkness. It's kind of okay. Once you get into it further, you get more addicted to it. The music's always great, though, so that alone is worth playing it. So yeah, Castlevania Lament of Innocence is pretty good. And yeah, that's everything I beat for the month of May 2019. So hope everybody has a great summer coming up, and I will talk to you then at the end of June.